The main purpose of this is actually for me to learn and listen and answer questions. So we've got a bunch of time. Don't be bashful. Anybody? Any questions you want? Yes, sir. Introduce yourself for me. And we've got a microphone back here so everybody can hear.
My name is Deshaun Denny. My question to you is, if elected, what could possibly be done with the cost of living?
Well, first of all, I think everybody should understand what's been happening in our economy, because I think obviously everybody's concerned right now that we're moving into recession. But understand that this is the first time where we've seen economic growth over the last 7-8 years. But that growth has not gone to increasing people's wages and incomes. It's never happened before. In fact, the average income of the average worker has gone down $1,000 when you adjust it for inflation over the last 7 years. Now, why is that? Well, part of it is that because of globalization, you've had a lot of jobs moving overseas. A lot of middle-class jobs, like the ones that are created here, a lot of those jobs went overseas. We saw it in the steel industry. We've seen it in a lot of industries. And that's why having trade agreements in which we're negotiating tough to make sure that there are labor standards and environmental standards and safety standards for trade between countries, that has to be enforced. And you've got a president who's actually concerned about that. Again, I believe strongly in trade. We can't stop trade, but we can make sure that our White House, when it's negotiating, isn't negotiating just for Wall Street, it's negotiating for Main Street. That's point number one. Point number two, tax breaks. We had a whole bunch of tax breaks that were issued, except most of them were targeted at the wealthiest Americans. So you might have gotten an extra $70 that you didn't know about on your paying taxes every 15 months, or every April 15th. But my friend Warren Buffett, he got a whole lot more in tax breaks than you did. And so more money went to people who were already making a lot of money, less money went into people's pockets. And then you've got the costs that are increasing. Healthcare has gone up 78% for the average family. Gasoline costs skyrocketed. Right? Home heating oil skyrocketed. Right? So all these costs, college tuition, if you're trying to send a child to college, gone up. So what's been happening is that ordinary workers have been getting squeezed, even though the economy's been growing. And now we've got a situation where the economy's contracting, and that's something that we've got to worry about. The only reason, by the way, that people did not see as much of a drop in their standard of living were a couple of factors. More women went into the workforce, number one. Number two, home prices were going up, so a lot of people took out home equity loans to help make ends meet. And people were running up credit card debt. But now that housing prices are flatlining, we've got a real problem. So what are we going to do about it? I already mentioned one thing. We're going to change our tax code. So what I've said is we're going to roll back the Bush tax cuts on the top 1%, the wealthiest Americans. And what we're going to do is we're going to give a tax break to those who are making $75,000 a year or less. Typically, that'll mean about $1,000 extra income in the pockets of most working families. All right? As I said, for seniors, if they're bringing in less than $50,000, I want to make sure they don't have to pay income tax on their Social Security. That will save them money. People who have homes but don't itemize their deductions on their income tax when they file, I want to give them an additional mortgage deduction that will save them about 10% of their interest payments every year. So all these things will put more money immediately into people's pockets, and I also want to expand child care tax credits and the earned income tax credit, other ways of putting more money in people's pockets. What I also want to do is on the health care front, we're going to provide a health care plan that if you've already got health care, we are going to work with your employer to try to lower your premiums by an average of $2,500 per family per year. And we're going to ask that the employer pass on those savings to their workers. If you don't have health insurance, now everybody here is, hopefully has health insurance, but you know people who don't, then what we're going to do is we're going to set up a plan that's similar to the plan I have as a member of Congress. Because my attitude is, you're paying my salary, I don't know why I would have better health care than you are, since I'm working for you. So we're going to have a health care plan that is as good as the plan I have as a member of Congress, and anybody can buy into it, and if you can't afford it, we will subsidize you. You won't be able to be excluded for pre-existing conditions, which is what's happening to a lot of folks. So that will save people money, because that's a back-breaking cost. And the final area where we want to help people is on college affordability. There's a lot of families are now trying to save for retirement and save for their kids' college educations. And what we are going to do is we're going to have a $4,000 tuition credit every student, every year, in exchange for some community service. So they'll have to put in a few hours in a homeless shelter or a veterans home. But the idea is, we invest in the next generation. They invest back in their communities. But that will cover about 2/3 of the cost of the average public college or university tuition. And they'll still probably have to borrow some money, but they're not going to end up coming out of college with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of debt. And that will obviously be very helpful to a lot of families. So, all right, good question. All right, this gentleman right here.